This is Keep It Social. And with me today, as always, is Terrence. Hello, Terrence.
Hey, Paris, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. You know, like I always say, it's a great day to have a great day. It's our third episode. We're gaining momentum, moving along.
Yes, we are. And speaking of momentum, we have a lot of things to get into today. Everything from misinformation coming from pundits and on Twitter to Instagram and how its role in our lives has changed, to a little more sobering topic, talking about sexual assault and how social media has played a role in elevating the voices of survivors.
Yeah, it's a lot of important stuff that we really have to talk about. So we might as well just jump right in.
Let's do it. 18-year-old TikTok influencer Lauren Gray recently shared with her 40 million plus followers that she survived sexual violence at a young age. Since the surge of the Me Too movement, more and more people continue to come forward and share their experiences on social media through challenges, tweets, and posts. So, how has social influenced the way we discuss sexual violence? And has it given survivors a more effective platform to share their stories? Joining us today to talk about that is Eliza from the Boston Area Rape Crisis Center. Hi, Eliza. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. We hope that you're hanging in there in our new normal.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, all things considered.
Well, that's good to hear. And we also have Jake with us, who is a survivor of sexual assault. Hello, Jake. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being on, and especially thank you for being on with us to share your story. We really, really appreciate that. And so let's start with you. Tell us what the importance of social media has been in you sharing your story.
Yeah, so before the Me Too movement really got trending, I decided to share my story. I wrote an article in my college newspaper, the Daily Mississippian, and it was also published in the Huffington Post. And so my story got shared all over the internet, all over Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. So the reason I really decided to share my story was because I experienced sexual assault at a young age, and I didn't tell anybody for about 10 years. And after I told some of my close friends, I realized that I have not seen anyone else like me come forward with the story. It's usually women that come forward with their stories, and you don't hear about sexual violence against males, non-binary people, or queer people in general. And so that's what really made me decide I wanted to share my story, so maybe other people would hear and not feel as alone as I felt.
Yeah, and that's interesting because you say that you hadn't really shared it with anyone, but you went to online and shared. And that strikes me because also Lauren Gray mentioned when she put her story out that she had only told her best friend about the story, about what happened to her when it happened. But I guess, so I wonder what made social media feel like a safe space to share that when it's such an intimate and personal incident.
Yeah, for me, I really felt that, I had told friends and people in my life, but they hadn't shared that same experience. So they provided a lot of emotional support, but they really weren't able to relate to it as deeply as I was hoping. And when I was able to share it on a social media platform, I was able to reach a ton of other people who have experienced things similar to me. So I think posting it online really helped me find people who have also gone through what I've gone through, and I was able to get that community support of people who know what I've been through, and it's a little easier for me to talk with them about my experiences and about things I'm going through.
Absolutely. And so Eliza, you being with the Boston Area Rape Crisis Center, work with survivors and know so many different stories, and know how this journey can go for a lot of different people. So how have you seen social media play a role there?
Yeah, I think, what you said, Jake, really resonated with me because what I've heard is just like that power of connection and not feeling alone. And that's so important. You know, if you think about the Me Too movement, it was started by Tarana Burke, a Black woman, but most of the conversations around Me Too initially were around these privileged white actresses. And so social media is a really important place for people who are left out of those conversations about being survivors of sexual violence can share their story, be heard, and connect with one another. And that's really important. And I also think storytelling is a really powerful education tool. We have a Survivor Speakers Bureau, and one of our Survivor speakers talked about wanting to share her story to talk about incest, because that's something that people don't talk about. There's so much stigma around that. And so there's sort of an educational piece about wanting to talk about that and share her experience.
I was thinking about what Jake said earlier, right? This notion that, well, Eliza echoed it as well, that, you know, Me Too and sexual violence, there's an association with it really paralleling the experience of women, particularly white women. And so I think about the incident with Terry Crews when he said that he was assaulted and people were really bashing him. They weren't very supportive of his experience because he's a very strong, you know, a very tall, much larger man, right? So I wonder, for Jake and Eliza and Paris, you can jump in here as well. Like, what are your thoughts around those incidents where people are sharing their stories and then they're met with so much backlash, right? They're met with so much that, you know, they didn't think this would even come up, you know, the backlash from sharing their experiences.
Yeah, it's really hard, and I'm really grateful that Terry Crews did share his experience. But I think what people don't realize is when they make the comment about Terry Crews, one, they forget that he's also a human because he's famous. And they don't realize that he could see those comments and it could really be hurtful to him, and he just did something really courageous. But also, other people who haven't come forward with their assaults can see those comments too, and it makes it harder for them to want to share their story, because when you see comments like that against somebody like Terry Crews, who is like generally liked, he's famous, it's like you think, oh, well, I'm not famous, I don't have a huge fan base, like what if I only get this negative response and don't get the support? And that's really frustrating. And I think another reason that he got all this backlash is because of the power structures involved in rape and sexual assault. A lot of people don't like to acknowledge that sexual assault comes from a place of like exerting power over others. That gets a lot deeper and more complex when you consider other power structures such as race, sexuality, gender. And so when you have survivors that come forward that aren't what we're used to seeing as a survivor of sexual assault, it really kind of makes these people confront their preconceived notions about the power structures that exist in our society. And I think that's why you see a big backlash against survivors like Terry Crews, who is Black, male, and not what we think of when we think of a survivor of sexual assault.
And Eliza, just quickly before we have to let you two go, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I really appreciate what you're saying, Jake. And it makes me think about, I think there's a lot of myths around sexual violence. There's a very specific narrative of what people think sexual violence is, that it happens to white women, that it's a stranger in the bushes. And a lot of those things are about those power structures, are about all those, you know, sexual violence doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's connected to sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia. And it's about, I think, people not wanting to confront how big an issue this is, how much sexual violence is woven through like the very fabric of our society. And I think that's a really scary thing. And so people try and, I think, do a lot of sort of mental gymnastics to be like, well, you know, if he had just pushed back, it would have been fine, or trying to sort of get to that place. And I think that's a really, it's a human reaction, but I also would really challenge people to think about what would it mean to have a culture where survivors could come forward and be supported and listened to. And I think about like with coronavirus, we're all learning the power of like my actions impact everyone else, that by social distancing, I'm helping everyone else stay safe. And the same goes for sexual violence. By being an active bystander, by being someone who is aware of your surroundings, who's willing to say something when something isn't right, you're protecting everyone in your community. And that's something I really urge people to sort of think about and take on.
Definitely. Well, we'll all continue to think about that. Terrence and I will definitely think about that, and we hope that everyone watching does too. So Eliza, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for joining us. Thanks. And Jake, thank you as well. We really appreciate your time, and we appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me.
And for everyone watching, if you or a loved one needs any help around this or needs some comfort around this, you can call the National Sexual Assault Hotline or visit online at rain.org. So Terrence, can you imagine a world without Instagram? I mean, no photos, no likes, no ads at your fingertips.
Not really.
See, and that just goes to prove that that Instagram has really changed how we see the world. And so Sarah Fryer, who's here with us today, covers social media for Bloomberg and is the author of the book No Filter, the inside story of Instagram, where we learn what happened behind the scenes during the platform's rise. So Sarah joins us today from San Francisco. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being with us. And we wish that we were in sunny California. Well, I guess it doesn't make a difference because everybody's
inside, right?
Everybody's inside.
But your weather might be
scrolling through Instagram.
Yes, exactly. We'll come visit San Francisco through Instagram until we can get over there in real life. So speaking of Instagram, Sarah, take us back to the drawing board, remove the filter for us, if you will, and tell us, why do we need to know the story of Instagram?
Instagram is one of those social platforms where you can actually walk around and see it affecting our behavior, affecting our lives, in how we decide what to do with our friends, how we decide how to value people in society, how we decide where to travel, what to eat, what is fun to do for a birthday. Like, Instagram factored into all of these decisions. And for me, it was really interesting to try to figure out, did the company design our world this way? How did it happen? How did this app, this technology company, end up having such a tremendous influence on ourselves and our behavior? And so I think that's, as a technology journalist, I have focused on Facebook, on Snapchat, on Twitter. I understood those companies inside and out. I realized before writing this book that we did not understand the inside story of Instagram, that we didn't know the people behind it. We didn't know the decisions they were making. And it's had such an impact on our culture and what we value that I decided to dig in.
Yeah, and so tell us about some of the most fascinating things you found. Maybe like this. Maybe I know you don't want to spill all the beans, but what are some of the highlights? Instagram, like highlights on your Instagram story.
Yeah. So I think that the platform, actually in its very design, is a way, makes our behavior different than on other platforms, because there is no resharing on Instagram. And that was a very, very distinctive decision by the Instagram founders. They did not want to allow viral sharing because they didn't like it. And they wanted to cater to creatives, photographers, musicians, people who would use Instagram to build their own brands. And by doing that, what they ended up creating was a place where Instagram is the purest reflection of what we bring to the table. We're only sharing our experiences, our views on Instagram. And it became the ultimate personal branding tool. And even people who aren't using it professionally are thinking very, very strategically and curatively about what they're posting on Instagram. And that's one of the reasons that our behavior has changed so much. And also think about the filters. The filters in Instagram were introduced early on because iPhone cameras were so terrible. They had very grainy photos. There was leaking light and dark. It was very low quality, and people didn't feel like good photographers. And Kevin Systrom, the CEO of Instagram, who had a background in photography, applied the filters so that people would feel like their photos would suddenly turn into art. Well, fast forward 10 years, And now we just accept that everything on Instagram is more polished or beautiful than reality. We just will look at what people are posting there, and we know, like, whether or not it's had a filter. Filters aren't really necessary in the same way because our phones have better cameras, but we see people face tuning, we see them, strategically placing their angles, we see them.
Yeah, now you have like portrait mode and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And you have the Instagram versus reality meme on Instagram, where you can see just how much people go out of their way to present themselves as more perfect than they actually are. And so I think that early product decision also had a tremendous impact on how we see ourselves and how we use Instagram. So little things like that. But beyond that, it's just the actual editorial decisions of the Instagram employees literally deciding who to make famous on Instagram. The @Instagram account has more followers than any Kardashian still.
From what you said, what stuck out to me the most was the branding aspect, right? Especially when I just think of myself. I pay close attention to the photos that I post, right? I'm looking at how my skin looks. I'm thinking about the angle of my face. I'm worried about X, Y, and Z in the background, right? And this is just my,
Terrence.
it's just my personal
and you're taking
account.
Dozens and dozens. You got your selfie roll.
Exactly.
You're like, okay, which one's the best?
Yeah.
It is always a struggle for me when I'm taking pictures because I am so conscious about how this is going to be presented on a platform. I really am. Because I tell my friends, I'm like, you don't need to take my pictures because you don't know my angles the way I know my angles. You don't know my angles the way I know my angles.
Not all your friends can take your pictures either.
Exactly,
And I can only imagine how that's elevated for an influencer because of what Instagram has become.
Well, the other aspect of it is the metrics, right? Not only can you know your angles, you know what works. Why do you know what works? Because you have seen the metrics. You know which posts that you post get the most comments. You know which ones get the most likes. You know which ones boost your following, which ones get a reaction. And so you decide to change your behavior to adhere to those metrics.
Right.
And what's really crazy about that is, like, internally at Instagram, they hated changing their product based on the metrics. Like, they really
originally supposed to be this like artsy, creative.
Absolutely.
Mind-filled.
And when they were acquired by Facebook in 2012, they joined Facebook and they saw this company that was all about growth at all costs and all about tweaking this and that so that they could manipulate us into giving more of our attention to the Facebook product. And Instagram was like, oh no, we're not about that. We're about creativity. We're about art. But actually they are. I mean, we are, as a society now, all ingrained in us is this idea that we should strive for better metrics, whether or not we're an influencer.
Right. And I think, you saying all that, I've noticed that with myself, and I've had to honestly take steps back away from Instagram because I noticed how much I cared about it, and I noticed how much it was negatively impacting me. And so I was like, this is not real life. Just because you see me on Instagram does not mean you know me. And this is not all of who I am as a person. And so I should not be investing so much time and energy and emotions, honestly, into just simply posting a picture on Instagram.
Preach, Terrence, preach. Well, let me tell you what that's called. That's called growth. And we're here for it. Well, Sarah, we're really excited about your book, and we know that you are too, and we hope everyone watching will take some of these gems and apply them to their own life. So thank you so much for joining us, and please take care and stay safe.
Thank you.
So our next topic is kind of an ongoing conversation for us. In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, social platforms have increased their vigilance over what's posted to prevent the spread of misinformation. Twitter recently suspended commentator Candace Owens' account for violating its policies after she criticized Michigan's governor over the state's stay-at-home order. But was the suspension really in line with the company's guidelines, or was it just censorship? And what about the trend of conservative pundits seeing their accounts suspended? So with us to talk about this today is Zach from The Daily Dot, he's a reporter at The Daily Dot. Hello, Zach. How are you?
Hi. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Thank you so much for being with us. And we also have our good friend Phillipe with us. Hello, Phillipe.
Hey Paris, hey Terrence, hey Zach. Hope everyone's staying safe.
We hope that you are too. So, Zach, why don't you've reported on this story? Why don't you give us your take?
Absolutely. So Candace Owens is a conservative pundit, so to speak, in Trump world, who has garnered quite a lot of attention in recent days because Twitter decided to take action against one of her tweets, in which it encouraged her followers and users on the platform to go directly against the Michigan governor and attend rallies. And go out and not abide by the stay-at-home directives. And the people at Twitter felt as though this directly violated their COVID-19 misinformation policy. And in a statement to the Daily Dot, told us that this tweet was going to be taken down. And Candace Owens' account is currently locked until she agrees to kind of the terms of the tweet being taken down, of course, which is already down by Twitter. And furthermore agrees to kind of serve this mini penalty. You can think of it kind of like a penalty in hockey, per se. You get out eventually. So that's kind of what's going on with Candace Owens. People have kind of misconstrued, I think some conservatives have misconstrued this misinformation COVID-19 policy by Twitter, when, maybe what Twitter is trying to do is just crack down on some of the misinformation, and maybe at the end of the day try to save, some lives, potentially.
Yeah, but like saying, no, people, you actually shouldn't go out just yet, shouldn't go to work and open your business just yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is still Twitter jail, right? Is that still the term for what has happened?
Time
or is
out.
that still from like 2012?
Yeah.
It's a form of Twitter jail. And I mean, when you think about where Twitter jail came from, essentially, you broke some form of the rules, right? And I just think it's really ironic coming from Candace Owens. Well, it's ironic, but I'm also not surprised, right? Because she's such a person who is like, follow the rules of America, right? And she's then telling people to now break the rules, which I think is.
But are those rules also free speech?
Right. I think that's one of the big points about this is where does moderation become censorship, right? So when Twitter says, no, you can't post this because it violates our guidelines, well, we understand now that Twitter it's a private company, but it's also part of the public conversation right now. So all of our public conversations happen on Twitter. So when they say, nah, we're not going to let this go through, is it a form? Is it just them moderating, or is it them, censoring? If she had posted something about, oh, I can't believe Georgians or South Carolinians or Texans that are going back to daily life, would Twitter censor that, or would Twitter ever remove that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think one of the other cases, sometimes with Twitter, I think we get too focused in kind of one situation or one decision that they made. We can look to other kind of decisions and choices that Twitter's made recently. And I think one of the most recent ones has been Diamond and Silk, when they were suspended and their tweet was taken down, which encouraged people to go outside. And
these are also two conservative pundits, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That encouraged them to kind of go outside and float this kind of push to delegitimize the stay-at-home directives of governors from various states.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I mean, I guess it's kind of like, was this a policy? I think there was a little bit of confusion, at least from the right, about, well, where does it say in Twitter's policy that you can't post this? But it seems like since this pandemic has started, they have amended their policies to say, okay, look, certain things we're not going to let you say because it's misinformation. But there also are people out there who think it's right, it's time to reopen, who think Candace Owens was right in her tweet.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and I think they have a right to believe whatever they want to believe, essentially. However, I think that people have a right to believe whatever they want to believe, especially when it comes to the coronavirus, right? Like, we have the research, we have the scientists, we have the doctors, we have the people who are telling us X, Y, and Z about what's happening, right? I don't think this is like, you can't believe what you want about coronavirus and share that on Twitter. I think that it's more so you are encouraging people to a certain extent to risk their life, right? So there's a difference in sharing your belief and your thought system in comparison to encouraging people to just run off into danger, essentially, right? Because I mean, we've seen that with states that have reopened, like Georgia, where they've had huge spikes in like limited days, less than a week of reopening. And so her encouraging these people to just go to work, do what you do, go outside, you're telling people it's okay to risk their lives. And so I think it's a little different in comparison to, her own personal beliefs about the coronavirus.
Well, it's also branding, right? I mean, that's part of her brand. She's a fire starter. Absolutely. And a lot of these pundits and commentators that have been suspended from Twitter, that's kind of what they do. They rile the masses. And that's how they're able to get notoriety.
So, Zach, how is Twitter and other social platforms supposed to control those fires in the months ahead?
Absolutely. Well, in the months to come, we're going to see statements come and go from pundits and characters alike, whether that be the left or the right. And I think one of the things that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all these companies really have is a moral obligation to their users to ensure that true factual information gets to those people on those platforms, and that false misinformation is filtered out and tossed to the side. And I think Twitter uniquely has handled this situation well with a guided statement and rules to follow in regards to COVID-19. But in the months to come, I think it'll be interesting to see how the progression goes and what direction Twitter takes with dealing a whole multitude of other characters and issues that arise. And furthermore, how weeding out of information will be determined by these big tech platforms.
Most definitely. Well, we'll certainly be watching and we'll be keeping up with your reporting as well. So, Zach, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you.
And Phillipe, thank you to you as well. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Terrence. It's always a pleasure to be on the show.
Next is 8 times 7, let me teach you a lesson. The answer's 56, so say it till it sticks. Oh, 8 times 8 is gonna be 64, say it with me. 8 times 9, we're almost through, it's 72. 8, 16, 24.
This week and now trending, people everywhere are showing gratitude towards their teachers, past and present, during Teacher Appreciation Week. These students continue to give shout outs and thank yous to the educators that have made huge impacts in their lives. So Terrence, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Of course. First of all, let me just say, every educator at WB Reed Elementary School in little old Sugar Lock, Mississippi. Thank you, right? Like my elementary school was like all the teachers truly loved us. They truly believed in us. Like it was a great foundation. And that's like no diss to any of the amazing educators I had after them. But they just, superb.
Well, that's where it all began.
Exactly.
They
it's
set
home.
you on the right path.
Exactly. They truly did, and so I completely understand wanting to show these teachers their appreciation because, a lot of times the connotation around education and educators isn't always as respectful or as positive as I personally think it should be, and so I think taking this moment to just say thank you. Thank you for making me a better person. Thank you for educating me is like really huge,
That's so special, Terrence. So sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love educators. They do a lot.
Me too.
Me
too. And I had to give a shout out. So first of all, my dad was a teacher for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
He never taught me. We were in the same school for 3 years in middle school. So he never taught me, but I would see him when I was walking down the hallway. And obviously it was extra special because he was my dad. And I would see him doing his job. And that was just so special to me. And I have a number of teachers, especially from high school, who I want to shout out. Everyone from Mrs. Bryant to Mr. Page, who loves Diane Dish and organist. That's a whole other thing. To Miss Freeman, Miss Clark, all of you. You all were great. And there's so many more that I didn't name, and I'm not forgetting you. We're winding down here.
Right.
Thank you. We say thank you to all the teachers. You're great.
Exactly. Because they do more than just educate, They do way more than just teach us math, science, reading and literature, or as my grandparents used to say, reading and arithmetic.
Right, arithmetic, you know it. You know it. All right, well, that's it for us. Definitely, please send us any questions or comments on your social or on your email, and let us know what you want to see on the show. And if anything didn't make sense, be sure to check out our Social 101 page on our website, keepitsocial.org. And I got to tell you, Terrence, that part is especially for my mom. A couple weeks ago, after I think the first show, she was like, I don't even know what a TikTok is. So mommy, go to keepitsocial.org. Figure it out, girl. I love you.
Right.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week. And until then, Terrence, what should they do?
I mean, they already know. Keep it social.
A production of WGBH.